Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 5 starts now.
We begin tonight with an early Christmas present for commuters in Macomb County. After months of construction chaos, the orange barrels are gone on Mound Road. If you've ever been in it, you know just how bad traffic has been.
Yeah, and it wasn't a small stretch of road either. The work ran from 12 Mile all the way up to M59, a very heavily traveled north-south route. So we decided we're going to show you firsthand what it's like right now. Mara McDonald is joining us tonight to take us on the first rush hour commute. And Mara, folks say this is a long time coming.
I mean, Damon, let's be honest. First of all, take a look. I mean, this looks like velvet compared to what it was. We are going to take you on a live drive, which is why I'm shooting this on my phone right now. Coach Derek is behind the wheel here in the truck. There we go. That's both of us. So there are a whole group of elected officials here in Macomb who will tell you that at one point, Mound Road resembled the surface of the moon. And that's not hyperbole. I mean, every year at this time, with the frost and the thaw cycle, all these huge pitted holes would start showing up on Mound. And I mean, we were constantly doing stories about people whose cars were essentially getting eaten out here. It got to the point that the Macomb banded together with the mayors of Warren, of Sterling Heights, SEMCOG, MDOT, as well as the U.S. Department of Transportation, and came up with a funding mechanism. We're talking like $220 million to rebuild this thing essentially from 696 to 59, which has been kind of a real pain if this is your daily commute. I mean, I can't believe how beautifully we are driving here right now. Normally, you know, with the orange barrels up, everybody was waiting. Congestion was terrible. It was going to take you forever to get up and down Mound. Now, I mean, I feel like we're on a whole new road, don't you? Mark Hackle and a bunch of the elected leaders in Macomb essentially had a ribbon opening for today's newly refurbished Mound Road. And Hackle can tell you what it was like in his office. They were getting calls constantly about what a problem this was. Now, whole new world. Take a listen.
It was the most challenged road in southeast Michigan. And now you drive down it today, and it's almost like you forgot about that. And I'm kind of glad. I would like to forget about it.
I'm sure he does. There was at one point where the Macomb County executive asked people if they saw man-eating potholes, like the kind that was really going to, potentially cause not only serious damage to cars, but terrible accidents, to call 911. That became a whole story in and of itself. But now this whole stretch is completely open. It is 5 o'clock. It's the heat of rush hour. And I can't believe this. I mean, we are driving like it's a Saturday in the park. There are no traffic problems out here.
Yeah, and fantastic, like you said, Mara, if that is your daily commute, you really can appreciate how smooth the traffic is flowing.
All right, smooth sailing. All right, Mara, we're going to check back in with you a couple of times to see just how that commute is going. Well, our other top story tonight, we're getting our first look at the Detroit police officer charged for killing an elderly man outside of a bowling alley.
Juwan Brown faces a charge of manslaughter for the death of 71-year-old Daryl Vance. This happened back in September of this year. Let's get to Sean Lay. Sean is live following today's arraignment. Sean, good evening.
Kimberly, Devon, here's what the deal is, and this is one of those cases we've heard about kind of in the past. A person throws a punch. The person receiving that punch is hits the ground, and then later passes away. That's what happened here, prosecutors say, and this time involving a Detroit police officer.
People State of Michigan versus Juwan Brown.
In the upper middle of the screen, wearing a bow tie, is Juwan Marquis Alexander Brown. The 29-year-old has 7 years in as a Detroit police officer. Today, finding himself well on the other side of the law, he's facing a very serious charge of manslaughter. The victim, a 71-year-old man named Daryl Vance. September 1st, Officer Brown was dispatched to Garden Bowl in Detroit on a report of a disorderly person, the 71-year-old man. Prosecutors say not only did the officer and Vance get into a confrontation, but prosecutors say Officer Brown was the aggressor, punching Vance in the face, sending him to the ground where he hit his head. 20 days later, Vance died of his injuries and Officer Brown was officially charged. At his arraignment today, we learned a bit more about the officer.
He has no criminal history whatsoever. He has been employed as a Detroit police officer for approximately the past 7 years.
Detroit Police Chief James White fired Brown, the chief talking about the tragic situation today.
I'm going to support the officers that do this great work and are committed to our community. And if there's anyone who falls below that, I'm going to hold them accountable.
Back here live, Brown's attorney indicated that the court has a 7-year-old at home and said that he needed a personal bond. A $100,000 personal bond was given. In the meantime, Kimberly, Brown is appealing his release from the police department. We're live tonight. Sean Lee, Local 4.
Okay, Sean, thank you.
Right now, officers with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, they've seized 110 pounds of ketamine in a man's baggage at Detroit Metro Airport. Now, that man, who's from the U.K., arrived on a flight from France on December 13th and was selected for secondary inspection. A search of the man's 2 large suitcases revealed plastic bags filled with ketamine. CBP officers seized the ketamine and refused admission to the traveler. He was sent back to France. Well, it's time to go all in on the Detroit Lions. Just 3 games to the regular season, and this team is looking to lock in for the playoffs.
That's right. 2 of those last 3 games that we're playing against the Minnesota Vikings, and that's who the Lions are taking on this weekend. Hobie Artigue in for Bernie tonight. He's live at the Lions practice facility in Allen Park with more. Hi, Hobie.
Yeah, December 2023 is kind of turning into a weird year. There's none of that white stuff on the ground, and we're talking about the Lions clinching a playoff spot with 3 weeks left in the regular season. They could actually clinch a playoff spot as early as tomorrow night, depending on what happens on Thursday Night Football between the Rams and the Saints. But this team has an even bigger goal, because with one more win, it would give this team its first division title since 1993. Now, last week here in the locker room, the word that they used the most was urgency going into that game against the Broncos after they lost that game to the Bears. It's a very similar story this week as they chase history.
It's important to just stay focused on the task at hand. You know, no different we did last week. We put the work in. We were very detailed, focused, put together a good game plan. Those guys executed well, and it's the same thing here. Just focus on the job at hand.
Understand what our goal is, what our mission is, and yeah, not much has changed. I think, you know, last week it's not the worst thing in the world sometimes to get your ass kicked a little bit like we did in Chicago. So it created that, and it continues on.
I think it's the same every week. Despite we got a title on the line in this game, I think it's the same message continues.
Well, the journey continues as they try to get back to the playoffs, a place they have not been in a very long time. The Lions, though, getting some good news earlier today. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, their star safety, who was hurt at the beginning of the season, back at practice today. And coming up a little bit later at 5, we'll hear again from Jared Goff as he gets ready to take on that Vikings defense that has a brand new look this season as they try to win in a place that they have not won in a very long time. The Lions last won at Minnesota back in 2017. We'll have much more coming up a little bit later in sports, but for now, we're live in Allen Park. Hobie Artigue, Local 4.
All right.
Thanks, Hobie.
Hobie, we appreciate it.
Well, now to the weather, and it's safe to say it can't get much better for the thousands of folks coming in and out of Metro Airport over the next week.
Yeah, because we've had a lot of sunshine today. We wouldn't mind seeing more for tomorrow. So let's get over to Kim Adams with the 4-1 forecast. Some good news on the way, Kim.
Oh, there is. If you like warmer weather, definitely you're in for a treat, because we have temperatures going into the 50s in the 7-day forecast. But right now, it's a cool 38 downtown, 36 in Howell, 36 in Port Huron, and 39 in Monroe. Upper 30s pretty much everywhere you go, with the exception of downtown, where it's 41 degrees. It's warmer than it was yesterday by 7 degrees in Ann Arbor, 9 in Jackson and Lansing, 7 degrees warmer up in Pontiac, and 7 degrees warmer than it was the same time yesterday in Monroe. So we definitely have some warmer air, and we're not done there. Temperatures tomorrow will go back into the low 40s, around 41, 42 degrees. You'll notice an increase in the clouds, though, tomorrow afternoon. By the evening hours, we drop back down into the upper 30s. Now, if you're trying to decide between Thursday night and Friday night to have some outdoor plans, Thursday night will be the drier of the 2 nights, and I'll talk more about that coming up in the forecast. But take a look at this temperature trend. It looks like by Christmas, we are at 52 degrees, 52 for Tuesday. By Wednesday, we're still in the low 50s. So some very, very warm air headed in. We've got some rain for Friday, part of the weekend, and then again next week as well. So we'll break it all down for you coming up.